Jagex just came out with a blog post asking us, the community, to come out with new reward spaces for Varlamore Part 2. And I'm pretty excited. I'm imagining there's going to be quite a few Reddit posts and Twitter posts talking about some reward ideas. This is not the Ramble to talk about the ideas per se, but it's just to kind of go over the blog, maybe explore a few things. But one of the rambles I did miss was the elemental and ranged styles, like elemental weaknesses and range styles. So I just want to briefly touch on that. I did talk about that in the No Monkey cast that literally went up yesterday. So if you guys want to check it out, I asked No Monkey about what his thoughts were and stuff, and I shared a few of mine. There's not really much I can say about it other than just I'm okay with it, but I will get there. So, but first we're going to cover this thing. So let's make sure this all looks good. I don't even have the game open right now because I'm just going to like full focus. So there's no like fletching magic logs in the background this one. Don't worry, it'll be back. Okay, Varlamore Part 2, quests and reward space. It's time to see what's next for Varlamore. Varlamore Part 2. I am pretty excited about Varlamore Part 2, by the way. Just so that the entire land, I mean, that is like the biggest thing. Just all the land is connected and it just looks beautiful and stuff. And also, when are they ever going to fix Lovakang and Arceus? Dude, Arceus, that place, the blue place, is so abominable. I teleport in there. It is like that is the definition of depression. Like you go in there and you're just like, I need to leave like immediately. The environment's depressing. There's nothing happening. It's dark. It's just the buildings are massive. Like, can we please get to that like quick? So once Varlamore Part 2 comes out, like Zaya is almost going to be finished. We just got to touch Lovakang, Arceus, and I guess Piscarillius as well. Although, yeah, Piscarillius definitely needs some work, but it's just like the buildings are too big. Like everything is way too spread out. So hopefully all three of those places just get like a nice little cleanup very soon. And I wonder if they're going to take Gentle Tractor's suggestion, by the way, where he imagined Lovakang being what, if you guys have entered, like right before the Moons of Peril minigame, there was like this dwarf layer, basically, where everything's kind of like underground or like in the mountain. I'm pretty sure that's what Gentle Tractor was talking about. He was on the cast like years ago, and he was talking about his like whole layout for Lovakang. So that would be really amazing too if it was not just rearranged and the buildings were more like nicely placed and stuff and smaller, but like it was actually like an underground volcano kind of thing. So we'll see what happens. But with the launch of Varlamore Part 1, you're finally able to hop on your Quetzal and explore the Shining Kingdom. Well, 1/3 of it anyway. There are still two parts. Oh, wait, what? There's two parts left? What the? I thought this was the last part. Okay, there's two parts left. Oh my God, I literally did not know. This is brand new news to me. Brand news to me. Does that make sense? Instead of saying brand new news, brand news. That does not make any sense. Okay, and today we want to give you your... I am losing her already. I'm just cracking. It's just so bad. We've covered 2 sentences so far. I want to give you your first look at Varlamore Part 2. Before we get into it, we want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to explore Varlamore. We've really enjoyed collaborating with you to bring the Shining Kingdom to life, and we can't wait to do the same with Parts 2 and 3. Please know we will still be making the previous changes we spoke about last week and look to improve areas of Part 1 in the near future. With that in mind, today's post is all about how you can have your say about quests and rewards in Varlamore Part 2. Let's get started. Quests in Varlamore. We're thrilled to see how much you've enjoyed the first few quests in Varlamore, especially one of the froggy variety. I actually did do that frog quest by the Adicon, just totally insisted on the cast that I do that frog quest, and I did it on stream. I paused the music. Actually, I don't think I paused the music, but I definitely read every single dialogue out loud, and I had a great time. It was kind of fun. So great quest. It was just super easy. I didn't have to move more than like 20 total tiles, which is nice. If you haven't played The Riveting Tale of a Lily Pad Labor Dispute, we highly recommend it. It's a thoroughly enjoyable little quest that really captures the spirit of old school RuneScape. It did. It was good. It was good. It's also generated a lot of questions about whether we'll add more surprise quests in future. Here on the team, we love surprises, and if the community feels the same, we'll happily look into adding more in parts 2 and 3. I think that's a great idea. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Consequently, in the next Varlamore poll, there will be 2 questions asking whether you want more Varlamore quests and whether you'd like that number to include more surprises. I like the surprises. To be clear, if surprise quests get the green light, we'll still be pulling any included rewards or content that will affect the wider game. That's one of the core principles of our polling charter, after all. This means that while we'll keep the exact details of a quest a surprise until launch day, you will still get the final say on any game-changing content it might include. In addition, these questions will apply to all future Varlamore releases, not just Part 2. Vote yes, and you can look forward to plenty more surprises in future. Rewards. Now let's take a quick look at the rewards you can expect from Part 2. As we revealed in our Winter Summit, Varlamore Part 2 takes you to 2 extremes: the luxurious island of Alderan, and the inhospitable mountain range north of Civitas Illa Fortis. Headline content includes a new Herblore activity on Alderan, a new group boss in the mountains, and a continuation of the Varlamore storyline. Today we want to know what rewards you'd like to see from this content, so we can make sure you have the opportunity to vote for something you'd really like to see in the game. Here's a quick breakdown of the reward spaces we have in mind. Okay, let's hear it. This high-level skilling activity, this is so good, by the way. This is like a wild berry monster tea. It's pretty good. I like it. This high-level skilling activity is designed for players with 70-plus Herblore, although lower-level players may still be able to join in the fun. As with any high-level activity, we want to ensure rewards are appropriately desirable. More than any other skill, Herblore plays a very different role for Iron players. While this activity is suitable for all account types, we want to make careful considerations regarding the ways different players interact with this particular skill. Finally, this isn't a high-intensity training method. Herblore is already pretty high-intensity as it is. As a result, we have to like make a chart of like what's high intensity and like skill is what's. To be honest, I've like all bank standing skills are in high intensity, I guess, apparently now, or something like that. Maybe it's just because like the potions are made so quick. I don't know. I'm very curious though what they mean by that. As a result, we'll be prioritizing tangible rewards over XP. We haven't yet decided how many rewards should come from this piece of content or what those rewards might be, so the floor is open for you to tell us your ideas. Group boss. Okay, wait. So Herblore activity. Yeah, I'm very curious. I'll be honest. I've kind of lightened my stance somewhat just on my whole. Like I think I made some rambles talking about like the Herblore activity and basically making sure that we don't have an activity that's just straight up. No supplies for Iron Men. Go in there, get 250k XP an hour. Just like something ridiculous that completely breaks like the economy of herbs and farming and all this other stuff. I can see a problem with that. Although I will say, ultimately, Iron Men are always in need of potions. And so I feel like classic Herblore will always kind of be the go-to. And I'd imagine it would probably be the most efficient. It's like I'm just imagining some guy really caring about like 200 mil Herblore or something, so he's just gonna do this Herblore activity that's 200k XP an hour, just grind it, for 1,000 hours, get it 200 mil. But then he doesn't have any potions. Although I will imagine this mini game probably gives you potions, right? That would make sense actually. Like surely this mini game gives just straight up potions. I just really wonder what they're gonna do. So I'm not gonna like be too hasty or anything or too like. I don't know, on the negative Nancy side of any of this. I think for the most part, they'll come up with something good. It looks like they're already making careful considerations as to how we're going to interact with this. But yeah, ultimately, it should be fine. It's really not about me either. It's really just about those people that have been grinding for years and years and years that do care about skilling and then have something that just completely obliterates that. I always think about Lelador. Lelador years and years ago when he was still playing, he was rank 1 Iron Man. He had like 30 mil prayer XP before the Chaos Altar ever came out. He was rank 1. Just crazy. That was so much for an Iron Man at the time. And then literally one update, it just cuts all of his hours in half. Just like, again, that's not, I just feel bad for that guy and any player that plays like them. We have to remember that. Yes, even though if you're not going to dedicate your life to this game, some people do, and some people want this game to have some integrity to it. So we have to remember that there's other players that play this game. There's people that really compete. And when things are just massively devalued, most players would see that not as a problem. It's just like, it's ultimately just fun. But we do have to keep in mind that there's players that really care about integrity and balance. So hopefully there's not going to be any like just out of control Herblore thing that just breaks Herblore for those people that have been grinding it straight up. So yeah, anyway, enough of that. Group boss. The Northern Mountain Range will be home to a multiplayer PvM experience. Our target group size is 3 to 8 players, but you'll have the option to do the content by yourself or en masse. Is that how you pronounce it? En masse? En masse? I don't know. In terms of loot mechanic, we'll be looking to bosses like Nex and Scurious that reward multiple players. Unlike Scurious, we're not targeting players with less PvM experience or trying to teach mechanics. Instead, we expect that players will already have or be close to having a fire cape before taking on this boss. To put that in simpler terms, this content is aimed at 90 plus total combat level. Again, we feel that harder content deserves better rewards, so we plan to give out 2 to 3 unique drops from this boss. Bear in mind that this won't include pets or cosmetics, just a few rewards that impact the wider game. One other thing, we've heard your feedback regarding chargeable items and will not be including them as a reward from this content. Bear that in mind when you're letting us know your thoughts. Okay, group boss. First off, I want to just say if they're planning on doing something like Nex, one of the how do I like unpack this briefly? This is you guys know I ramble, so it's just I'll try to get to like the point of what I'm trying to say. So Nex, in theory, works really nicely because what it is it's just one boss. There is no scaling to it. It's just the boss has this much HP no matter how many players come in, and you just murder it, and then boom, everyone gets a tiny little split, and then somebody gets the big drop, and 2 drops can happen occasionally. That's really nice, but one of the problems with Nex is ultimately there's too many things that make it so the more players you add, the worse the fight becomes and the more inefficient it becomes. So one of those things is like nulled damage. Nulled damage is like the most annoying shit. It's probably not the most annoying. I think it's the second most annoying. The first most annoying thing is getting frozen and not being able to do anything. I'm imagining like KBD where you're just frozen there, or like Fossil Island Wyverns without the shield and you're just sitting there and just frozen in place. Like, it's so bad. But the second worst thing is you hitting and then all of your hit splats are null. It's just zeros, Moons of Peril has that. That pisses me off so much. Whenever Moons of Peril is transitioning phases, if you hit with like the last like 2 or 3 ticks before that phase, your attack is nulled. Why did the devs decide to do that? Why did they think that was fine? Like, stop it. Seriously, stop. Make it so all of your attacks can hit. I'm just gonna like nitpick at Moons of Peril. If there was a singular JMod listening to this, like, can this be looked at? Like, I've already completed Moons of Peril, so I'm never going to go back there anyway unless there's like some hard mode or some pet. But Jesus Christ, like, it is so aggravating having the boss at like 3 HP. You swing your scythe 0-0-0 because you're in that little like nulled zone where just no matter what you do, it's going to hit zeros. It's so tilting. Anyway, so going back to Nex has very similar mechanics where like Nex has these like just you cannot hit Nex above or like below this HP threshold until you kill the minion and stuff like that. So let's just imagine at the end of Shadow phase or whatever, right before you're supposed to kill that Shadow minion, if you hit a Ruby, like, you're not going to hit your 110 with your ZCB. You're going to hit a fucking 2 and it's going to transition over. So you've already nulled that damage, and like anybody that's also attacking, all their damage is nulled because it like gatekeeps you at a certain HP threshold. That is so annoying. And it literally, like, I understand partially why Jagex does things like this. I think it's because they want like the fight to feel like it has all the mechanics. Fuck the mechanics. Seriously, everybody nowadays just wants... Bosses become so much more fun when there's skips available, when there's things that weren't intended that you can coordinate, or you can get really good RNG to just fully skip phases. It feels great. It's amazing. It's like it just feels great. So I'm just imagining Nex. Imagine Nex had no nulled damage and it had no HP thresholds. The thresholds are there to spawn the next minion, but if you attacked, like you will still deal your full damage basically. So if you could coordinate, 8 people to just shoot a ZCB spec right there, you do 880 damage. All of the damage would go through, and imagine you could just fully skip a phase, just break the boss and then move on. But that would take some coordination. It'd still rely a little bit on RNG, just making sure those specs actually land. And things like that make it feel so much better. So the other problem with Nex is just the sheer loading time of the next boss. So the boss dies, now you're sitting there for 50 seconds, like 50 straight up seconds before anything can happen again. So that alone makes it so the lower in players you get to, it just becomes way more efficient. You may as well just go down to duos, which is just so pathetic. I feel like the team and also the wider player base, I'm not saying everybody, but most players nowadays really want to see you being able to mass and have it be efficient. Toa did a great job with like you doing 8-mans and feeling like you actually have decent purple chance all the time. And I was talking with Ron Plays Games and a lot of other creators just recently on the casts, and they are all completely on this new bandwagon of like, can we just get rid of any annoying like detriments to like Chambers, for example. Chambers massing is a fucking headache. It's horrible. No matter what, you're going in there, you're going to lose all your points. The whole team's going to fucking die multiple times at all. And right at the end, you're going to lose 40% of your points, 40% of your points, 40% of your points. And just by the end, you were in there for, an hour and a half, and now you have what you would have done in 20 minutes in a solo, like points wise. And that is so egregious. Honestly, if we were to make a really positive Cox change, it would seriously be, you do not lose points dying in Chambers. Like, I know that might sound crazy if you haven't listened to any of my casts or anything. You're like, oh, well, what? Like, you don't lose points? How? No, you have to lose points. You don't have to lose points. Seriously, imagine you could go in to Chambers to learn Chambers in any sort of group, and if all your teammates are dying or if you're dying repeatedly, it doesn't matter because all your points stay. So at the end of the run, as long as you completed the boss, you get your full amount of points that you deserve, all the damage you did. Because you're ultimately already getting punished for how long you're taking just to complete the raid. How long you've spent dying and going back up and going and trying to re-overload and everything. That amount of time is significant. They made a really positive change. This is just like a brief example of what I mean, that they decided they had a mechanic like that, and then they decided to remove it, and there was a really positive change. It was Sepulcher. Originally on release of Sepulcher, if you didn't like finish Sepulcher in the allotted amount of time, you lost XP. Like they would like reduce your XP drop once you've left. And then they decided that's really stupid because if you've already not made it in time, you've already lost an incredibly high amount of XP just from being so inefficient, So they changed that and they said, okay, you're still going to get your full XP amount even though you just trolled and you messed up for, 10 minutes straight. So honestly, if they wanted to make some good changes, and I'm going to tie this all back to this boss that they're trying to come out with, this group boss. The group boss really should be, you can bring players in and you're not going to be punished for it. The only punishment is that it is just an inefficient team. So like if you wanted to bring some noobs, you're not going to be absolutely like point deducted and all this other bullshit. No, it's just the only detriment is that they have lower DPS. Your kills are going to go a little bit slower, and that's it. And I feel like respawn time should be really quick. Get rid of all nulled damage. Make sure, this is another important thing. I'm gonna make the analogy with like wilderness group bosses. Wilderness, I'm just going on a fucking ramble right now. Holy shit. The wilderness group bosses right now are just so much fun, first of all. But only the top 10 players that did damage get a drop. So I'm going to just say right now with wilderness bosses in general. So I'm imagining Mass Callisto. If you guys have ever done Mass Callisto, if you guys have ever been to like one of my like Saturday streams or Mass and Callisto with the boys, it would be so much cooler if the boss didn't just drop a huge variety of random drops to everybody at different quantities, because that's kind of the weird thing about Callisto. Like when you kill a Callisto in a mass, your chat box gets spammed because Callisto's mechanics, like drop mechanics, is just, we're just going to roll every single person that, every single top, or all the top 10 people that did the most damage, they're all going to get a random roll on this. And like, okay, here you go. So here's your random roll, and the chat box fills up, and it's just like, what the hell did I just see? So can we chill with that? Make it more like Next, where there's one drop dropped, and it's divided perfectly for all the players. Now, I would say raise that cap of 10. Don't make it just 10. Make it so if you did literally any damage to this boss at all, if you did 1 damage, you do get a little teeny sliver of loot. You know what I'm saying? Like if, let's just say dragon arrows are on it, you get like 1 dragon arrow because you did 1 damage, something like that. So you can literally, when they're saying in mass, like you can do this, you can mass this boss, make it so anybody that even does a little bit of contribution gets a drop, not just the top 10, not just the top 8 or whatever you're trying to say. And make it just so that there's 1 drop that's given, or 2 drops, however the drop mechanics work. But that is the drop that's distributed to everybody, not this massive spam in the chat that just looks horrendous. And it just looks like everybody just got a random drop, and it's like hard to see. Sorry, I'm kind of nitpicking at this point, and I'm just kind of yelling at my monitor at this point. But you guys, anyway, I'm sharing a lot of different things, and I know I said I wouldn't I haven't actually talked about any reward ideas. We'll talk about those later. But if you guys have any reward ideas for this boss, let me know down in the comments. Very curious. And in fact, there actually was somebody that reached out to me just earlier talking about this really cool shield sort of mechanic. So like if a shield came up, like basically like an incoming attack, you could you could click the shield in your inventory or in your equipment tab, and then that next incoming attack actually absorbs into the shield, and you can shoot out that damage basically that was absorbed at a future point with like your spec bar or something like that. I thought it was really, really cool. So yeah, anyway, so just a lot of different things. Make it so massing this boss doesn't feel like you're wasting your time. That's next. Next massing is a big waste of time. Most content that you're massing, I'm not saying all, most content that you mass ends up feeling like a fucking waste of time. Can we not have that? Can we make it so basically in any sort of formation team, size, you're feeling like you're actually getting somewhere? Anyway, just my thoughts. Very excited about this, but yeah, I think just there's a lot of things to consider that are going through my brain at least. Now, I want to talk briefly about this project rebalance. So I scrolled all the way down. Just simply because, well, I'm kind of going to base this a little bit on what like No Monkey was saying. So basically, there are now elemental weaknesses coming into this game. So I believe it's just earth, water, and fire are getting the elemental weaknesses, not air. My laundry, I don't know if you guys can even hear that. My dryer's finished, and it's just going to keep doing that fucking jingle forever. Anyway, so I think it's really cool. I'm actually surprised there's no air weakness, to be honest. But they made that because they were saying, how now strikes. First of all, this was a thank you, Jagex, for doing this, making all the different types of like elemental casts, like strikes, bolts, blasts, all that. They now all deal the same base damage once you've hit that highest tier spell level. So like once you've hit level 13, your fire strikes and your air strikes now hit 8s. That's amazing. And it just all the way down. So very, very cool. Apparently No Monkey was saying he tested a lot of things, and there's no particular place really where using these new, trying to take advantage of these new elemental weaknesses with these certain bosses, even with a harm and max mage, is going to be changing any metas, because Shadow in almost every single spot does more damage regardless, mainly because of the saturated heart. But even without the saturated heart, I'm pretty sure like almost in every situation it's already better. And so he's just wondering like, why even make this complicated system if it's not going to have any effect? And my personal view is now we've opened a lane for potential new, like, first of all, we have an opening for extreme weaknesses. So I feel like in most cases, the weaknesses end up just being like 50% fire weakness or 50% earth weakness or whatever. We could really crank that shit up if we wanted to. You know, we could come up with like some water monster in the future, but fire spells are just gonna annihilate it. Wait, no. That would be the opposite. What does fire do good against? Fire does good against just fire. No. Water does good against fire, right? But fire doesn't. Or no, fire does do good against water. I'm confused. I don't know. Anyway, they can make things like that, so there is that opening. That's the beautiful thing, is like the future of this update is really nice. And also they can come up with new weapons in the future that utilize that standard spellbook. So right now we basically just have the harm. I know the Staff of the Dead and some other item, trying to think. I don't know how the Kodai works exactly. Is it all spells are 15% extra damage, something like that? So you have these staves that are dealing extra damage. Personally, I think it could be time that these standard spells could have some effect with a saturated heart. I don't know what you guys think, but basically what I'm excited about and what No Monkey I think didn't really see is like he's just seeing the game in its current state, and this is changing no metas. But it is allowing for random unique snowflake accounts that want to be magic only or something, or standard spellbook only, to have a extreme increase in DPS using their magic spells. So like Mole, for example, if you try to cast a water spell against Mole, right now, even before this update lands, it's just total shit. So at least the very bottom base DPS for a lot of like magic attacks is now being risen. Not obviously to become meta or anything, but at least it feels like magic can be utilized in some niche situations. So that's kind of cool. Range defense types. I'm personally a huge fan of this, although No Monkey as well. I'm just bringing up No Monkey because I just talked to him on the cast, and we did end up talking about this a lot. And he has done. He was trying things out on the beta, and he examined a lot of the places where this will have an effect. But his main gripe again was like mainly the places they're touching the range styles against bosses and adjusting their weaknesses are places where the things were already best in slot anyway. So he brought up the example of Leviathan. Leviathan, is you're already using a ZCB. That's already the best in slot. And now they're making it so it's even more best in slot because they're making it have like a heavy weakness, and, crossbows now have a heavy style. So, that's not really doing much. And then I think, what is that crocodile called? Krondis or whatever in TOA, the crocodile boss or whatever. I think that's what he mentioned, was that now has like a heavy weakness as well. So, crossbows and ballistas are better, but that's not changing any metas. You're still going to be using a T-bow, and you're still, or using a shadow in certain situations. But I think what he fails to see, and this is not me at all, I totally respect all of his opinions and stuff, but I think it is easy to forget that we do have the future of weaponry coming in the game. So I have been, I'm following the conspiracy theory that there's going to be a new ballista coming out, mainly because the DT2 bosses started shitting out javelin heads all the time. So I'm assuming we're going to see some new, just crazy ballista going hard that's really going to excel at those blunt creatures, or like the heavy weakness creatures, which is going to be really cool. And I think that is a cool opening to have. I don't think we're seeing any metas changing right now, but I think in the future these metas will be changing. So that's what I get excited about. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just really excited about all this. So let me know what you guys think about this. I know I haven't even made a ramble really talking about this exactly, like specifically, but overall I'm pretty happy. They're also making obviously like more extreme changes to even the melee styles. So for example, like gargoyles are going to have even lower, crush defense. It's going to be like in the negatives and stuff, and everything else is going to be a little bit higher. So it feels like crush really is the thing you're supposed to be using, not just slashing with a scythe or whatever. So that's cool. And yeah, so I'm going to have this blog down in the description along with the other Varlamore blog, so you guys can check that out. Like the video if you guys enjoyed this. I greatly appreciate you all listening. It's always nice just being able to make these and hearing you guys in the comments. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you for 20K subscriptions, by the way. So we hit 20K subscribers. It would be really cool. You know, there's no goal for the end of the year, but who knows? Maybe we could hit, like, I'm a really slow YouTube grower, like 20K over the last few years, but I'm happy. I'm very, very happy with it. But who knows? Maybe we can get to 25K by the end of the year. That'd be really cool as well. So, yeah, anyway, thank you guys for listening, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.